All right, yeah, here we are, swamp edition, woods and whitetails. Got the three of us here, Mikey, Joey. Yeah, just gonna add our experiences from our knowledge of hunting. We've got probably maybe 40, 50 years of hunting experience between the three of us, right?
At least.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're just gonna talk about swamp hunting here for maybe 10, 15 minutes. So, what do you guys want to start it off?
I'd love to, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Mike.
You're the expert.
To be honest, this whole little episode idea was mine, the swamp edition, because that is primarily where I hunt.
I love it.
I love swamps. You can't go wrong.
Swamps are awesome.
Every time Mitch brings me out to a spot, I'm always drawn to the swamps. He'll even say, "You're gonna love this spot." You know, swamp.
We
island.
both love swamps. We cattails are key.
That's key. And you get the great quote, "Creatures of the edge."
Creatures of the edge.
We refer to whitetail.
Whitetails.
What do you think makes that true?
They're just really wiggy. They just love to hug a edge. They just, I don't know, over the history of the earth, they have just come to hug any tree line, any swamp edge, any field edge. So
It's safe,
yeah,
right?
it's safety. Yeah, and so when
Even the pros say hunt swamp edges.
any hard edge or soft edge, they will follow it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I actually saw that for the majority of deer that I encountered this year.
Yeah.
This past season, I'm typically on a swamp island or right off of a main swamp that's full of islands. I'm kind of on some mainland. But most of the deer I saw they would not go on a typical, 20 by 60 yard island. They would skirt the edge, go through a bottleneck. I would find sign here and there, smaller deer sign, like yearlings with their mothers, does, on some of these islands, but typically all these bucks I was seeing on camera and in person this past season, September, October, up until the end, December, they were going through these corridors right off the edge of the island. So I don't know, that's not typical from what I've seen where I hunt. Usually a lot of bucks would come straight on those islands, but I was just noticing them on the edge.
Yeah, from what I've heard and learned, versus like diving too far into it, let the deer show you versus like scouting, like just observing. Did they ever like run the same pattern?
Yeah.
They did. I mean, like multiple different deer. Like, oh, one deer did this the one day, and then 3 days later, another deer did the same thing.
Yes, I especially on some of the higher islands, almost ridges, I would see the same pattern. Usually after the fact, just based on camera evidence.
Wow.
I would see these bucks go outline the same spot.
On edge.
On the edge.
Wow.
And every once in a while they would come up on the actual ridge or island itself, but not as typically as following the edge of it.
Following the edge, yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, they just are like computers like that. It's weird. So if you can get even soft edges, hard edges too. A hard edge would be like Oak Island to cattails, but soft edge is going to be your just trees that kind of make its way out into the swamp where it's just not as hard, but
the foliage is still there, but it thins out.
It thins out like slowly versus just a abrupt change.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mikey, do you got anything to add?
It's the path of least resistance, especially in your case.
Yeah.
It's not swamps; it's island swamps.
Yeah. So they're hitting the higher ground.
They hit each island, and these islands are probably 100 yards long,
Mhm.
60 yards long.
At
Yeah.
max, 60 to 100.
They're not just going to trek right across a 400-yard swamp. They're going to go to islands.
Yeah.
So
Why
they're
would they
go-
walk through the water
They're
versus
going
a
to go
hike?
to your island. They're going to go to the next island. They're going to
Yeah.
the next island.
And even though
They
these,
have to, and I guess that's where they go the same spots because that's the shortest distance between
Yeah.
islands.
you mentioned that
They're lazy in a way.
they're lazy, because they know it's a history, and I've had a lot of same bucks, same does where the island might be long like that, maybe 80 yards long, but it'll thin out where these deer, if they want to stay off of the wet lowland, they're gonna be concentrated somewhere. Path of least
Yeah.
resistance.
Yeah.
I've noticed the islands change a lot pre-ice and post-ice.
Really.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like even in my spot by where you hunt, they move way different when it's icy.
It's frozen.
Yeah. When it's like they
Huh.
can walk straight across.
Yeah.
But they will not walk straight across if it's wet.
Yeah.
But if it's frozen, they will. You
I
can see
bet-
tracks everywhere.
Yeah.
From what I've heard too, it depends on like some guys I follow that hunt in like extreme pressure areas, and if they're being extremely like shot at, then they will take the deep water. But
Yeah.
if they're not hit as hard, then they're gonna take the easier route. But once they start getting hit hard, then it's like, yeah, I'll swim across a lake if I have to.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing. My grandpa always had a great quote. He said, "Deer are like man,
hmm
where they don't want to get their feet wet and cold,
Yeah.
and if they can avoid that, a lot of times they will."
They will.
And it's true to a degree.
Yeah.
And it's also in swamps you find a lot of bottlenecks.
A lot of
Yeah.
bottlenecks.
Like where that deer I shot 2019 from like 120 yards, like that was me sitting in a wood stand, but right there was a bottleneck.
where
Yeah.
he was
Like it was
coming
a
through.
big, it was like a tri, like how we always call it tri swamp or whatever. Like it's like the stand was like in between 3 different swamps.
Yeah, they all.
So like they were
intersect.
big swamps that like came out in like ovals, and then each like on the other side of the swamp there was like a little part where it was only like 20 yards to
Yeah.
Wow.
cross.
really intimate.
And
That's where the deer were cruising.
that's where I shot the doe this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's right on the south side where they always
Yeah.
cross.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just a little travel like pinch
Travel
point where
corridor.
they
Yep.
come across. And they always go south because all the oaks are south.
Yeah, they're
And the
feeding.
bogs are
feeding
north.
on the oak or acorns.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
They would sometimes go to the islands where I would be to bed at night. They'd be traveling at dusk or going out at dawn. But a lot of times feeding on some of those oaks. There's a lot more oaks where that was. Cool.
Yeah, I struggled big time this year in the swamp with a target 9-pointer that I thought I had it pinpointed and hunted the rifle, and it was rough, just eluding me. I don't know, and he ended up making it. So, but yeah, I don't have a lot of oaks around there, but big swamp. So and no real funnel areas
You would see him on camera here and there.
here and there. Yeah, and
It's so hard to pinpoint the precise spot in a swamp
yeah,
because a lot of times you're going to find sign on a corridor,
yep,
on maybe an entry point, exit point, some bottleneck corridor, like I'm saying, but where do you set up out of 3-4 spots? And then
exactly.
you set
Yeah,
up-
where is he? I mean, he probably has multiple bedding spots on that island.
Absolutely.
Versus like one bedding area. It's like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
But,
And then when you set up on one spot,
he's
a
on the
sign,
other.
he's on the other.
yeah, it's rough. We should sometime talk about cell cams, versus sometime talk about that. I know I've heard a lot of guys say like, we get these pictures and like we should have been hunting that day. Like we're chasing these pictures
Yeah.
versus like we should have been there when the picture was taken. That's an interesting topic. I like that a lot.
Cameras in general, I feel.
Yeah, they're a hit and miss, aren't they?
Hit and
like
miss.
good and bad.
I'll always argue in favor of them because it gets me out there more than not, I would say.
Yeah, especially the big difference between, you know, us and other people maybe is we don't live where we hunt. So it's we can't just be out there every night.
Yeah.
Be like, you know, with binoculars, like, oh, look, let's see if there's deer there. You know, we only have a Saturday and a Sunday.
You got to capitalize and
So
put in your time when you can.
yeah, that makes it tough.
Yeah.
Full-time jobs, family, wives.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, that was good.
Cool. All right, I'll cut that there. That's probably like 15 minutes,
Yeah,
right?
that was good.
Want to add more? Or
No.
If anything comes to mind.